In 1920, American novelist Anne Parrish, aged 32, found one of her favorite books, being Jack Frost and Other Stories, whilst browsing a bookstore in Paris. She purchased the book and took it home to show her husband and tell him how much she loved the book as a child. Upon inspecting the book, her husband noticed an inscription on the flyleaf that read, Anne Parrish, 209 North Weber Street, Colorado Springs. Anne had traveled 4,920 miles, then unknowingly purchased her own copy of the book. The chances of this happening were almost zero. People say that life is a numbers game, and that certainly applies to distinctions made between influential historical figures Napoleon Bonaparte and Adolf Hitler. That number being 129. Did you know that Napoleon and Hitler were born 129 years apart? They also came into power 129 years apart. They both declared was on Russia 129 years apart. And finally, they were defeated 129 years apart. In 1967, Paul McCartney from the British band The Beatles got his inspiration to write the track She's Leaving Home when he saw it in a newspaper article about a 17-year-old runaway girl. What McCartney was unaware of was that he had met this same girl named Melanie Coe almost 4 years prior in October 1963, when he judged a contest on a TV show called Ready, Steady, Go. On the show, Melanie was awarded the top prize for her accurate miming to the Brenda Lee track Jump the Broomstick, which led to McCartney presented Coe with an autographed Beatles album. Back to the numbers game, this one has a narrower window with reference to dates. Mahatma Gandhi came to London in 1888, the same year in which Jack the Ripper started his killing spree. Gandhi returned to India in 1891, the same year of Jack's supposed last murder took place. Jack the Ripper's identity was never learned of. So is this a leap too far, or could Mahatma Gandhi be London's infamous serial killer after all? Let me know what you think in the comments. In 1817, a 20-year-old lady named Mary Ashford was murdered as she was returning from a dance during Whit Monday. The crime occurred in Erdington in Birmingham. She had last been seen alive on May 27th. The prime suspect in the case had the surname Thornton, Adrian Thornton to be precise, but he was eventually acquitted. 157 years later, in May 1974, a lady named Barbara Forrest was murdered in Erdington. Barbara was also returning from a dance and was also last seen on May 27th. The primary suspect was also eventually acquitted. His name was Michael, and wait for it, you got it. His last name was also Thornton. Spooky or what?
Walking through the woods isn't for everybody. What with the sound of twigs snapping, trees falling, and an abundance of wildlife living their lives. But if I saw an unusual amount of pasta, being around 500 pounds, laying around in broad daylight and nobody in sight, I'd need a new pair of pants. So where would you ever find this, I hear you ask? The answer is Old Bridge, Middlesex County, New Jersey actually, and near the river basin of the Veteran Stream to be precise. A jogger named Nina Yochnowitz was passing this point when she noticed hundreds of pounds of uncooked pasta had been discarded. The origins of the pasta dumping spooked locals. Nina, being passionate about the environment, criticized the mayor for ignoring the situation after she had brought it to their attention. Pardon the pun, but cleaning the mess up was described as mission impassable. Yeah, I didn't write that. But in all seriousness, who would dump such a huge amount of pasta and macaroni that measured over 25 feet? Any why in the woods so far from civilization? Stories of witchcraft, paranormal activity, and hoaxes began to arise, sending the internet into frenzy. But nobody knew what had actually happened. Local residents became increasingly vigilant and worried what may happen next. Was it a warning? Eventually, in May 2023, an unidentified man with a history of mental illness was found guilty of the crime. The mess was cleared up and the man remains unnamed. It is believed that the man lived in a nearby home, and when his mother passed away, he discovered she had been stockpiling pasta, so his first rational thought was to transport it all to the woods and set it free. Like you do. The man was never even issued a fine, but the case was solved. Some say this was lazy, whilst others struggling financially are sickened by all this food going to waste. What do you think? Please. A woman solved the case of her own murder. Wait, what? Please buckle up as I unravel this enigmatic tale. Allow me to introduce Teresa Basa. Born in the Philippines in the year 1929, she later took a leap of faith immigrating to Chicago, Illinois. Here, she carved out a life for herself as a respiratory therapist, garnering the fondness of her colleagues. However, her story takes a dark turn in February 1977. At the age of 47, Teresa met a violent end, leaving the Chicago PD utterly baffled. She had been brutally stabbed in the chest with a butcher's knife, her apartment set ablaze. Her body was discovered under a charred mattress, a chilling sight indeed. The only hint left behind was a cryptic memo that read, "Get theater tickets for AS." With no further leads, the murder seemed destined to remain a mystery. That is until almost half a year later, when a bizarre incident occurred. Teresa's ex-coworker Dr. Remy Chua had been having visions and dreams about her. Yes, you heard that right. Remy, a seemingly normal woman, started experiencing something inexplicably eerie. Night after night she dreamt of Teresa, her former colleague. These were not just ordinary dreams, they were vivid, almost conversations. In one such dream, Remy allegedly told her husband Joe, Teresa's killer was named Alan Showery. The strange part? She had no memory of this revelation upon waking. Despite the clear name, she decided not to contact the police, but the spectral voice wasn't done. It visited Remy again, questioning Joe about his inaction. This time, it shared a chilling detail. Alan Showery had stolen Teresa's jewelry after the murder and gifted it to his lover. Detective Statula wasn't sure if this information would be sufficient to bring Showery in for questioning until he learned from co-workers that Showery had planned to go to Teresa's apartment to repair her television on the evening she was murdered. The detective then called Showery in, and he confirmed that whilst he did visit Teresa that evening to repair her television, he did not have the tools to do so and went back home. But Detective Statula was not convinced. His suspicion led him to Showery's lover, and he decided to investigate her jewelry. Upon inspection, Teresa's family confirmed that the jewelry was indeed Teresa's. This was the break that the case needed. Showery, however, continued to deny the allegations. The pressure mounted, and 2 years later, in February 1979, Showery changed his plea to guilty. He confessed to the heinous crime. He admitted to killing Teresa and revealed his chilling motive. He had disrobed Teresa to make it look like a sexual assault after he had robbed her. For his crimes, Showery was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Unsurprisingly, he was released on parole after just 4 years in 1983. So did a voice from the grave solve this case? Let me know what you think in the comments.
Did you know some people believe Britney Spears is a clone? Yes, you heard it right. This is the world of celebrity conspiracy theories, where the ordinary rules of logic often take a back seat. Conspiracy theories can be described as alternative interpretations or explanations of events or situations, which are rejected by mainstream understanding. They are popular because they challenge the status quo and feed into our curiosity. So without further ado, let's delve into the top 6 celebrity conspiracy theories. Coming in at number 6, we have the theory that Britney Spears is allegedly a clone. Born on November 2, 1981, Britney shot to fame in the late 90s, but some believe the Britney we see today isn't the original. This theory sprouted after her 2007 mental health crisis. Observers have pointed out changes in her appearance and behavior, along with her absence from public view. This theory seems a little outlandish to me, but it's an opinion that continues to be peddled by conspiracy theorists. At number 5, we have the theory that Katy Perry is actually John Bennett Ramsey. This theory suggests that American singer and songwriter Katy Perry, born on the 25th of October 1984, is actually John Bennett Ramsey, a child beauty queen who was tragically murdered in 1996. Theorists believe John Bennett's parents staged her death, and she continued to live her life as Katy Perry. This theory arose due to noted similarities between Perry and Ramsey. True or false? You decide. Number 4 on our list is the theory that Tupac Shakur faked his own death. Born Leseni Parish Crooks on June 16, 1971, Tupac's reported death on September 13, 1996, sent shockwaves worldwide. Some theorists, however, suggest Tupac grew weary of his fame and staged his own demise to escape the media's relentless glare. Adding fuel to this mystery are the alleged post-mortem sightings of the rapper. So is Tupac still out there living a quiet, unassuming life? Will we ever find an answer to this one? At number 3, we have the theory that Keanu Reeves is immortal. This captivating conspiracy suggests that the Hollywood icon born on the 2nd of September 1964 isn't just an exceptional actor, but an ageless entity. It's proposed that Reeves is linked to a clandestine society active since centuries, and shockingly, he's been allegedly spotted in numerous historical events. The seemingly unchanged appearance of Reeves over the decades fuels this theory further. So, the question remains, could this be true? B. Coming in at number 2, we have the theory that Paul McCartney died in 1966. This belief revolves around the idea that a young McCartney, famed Beatles songwriter, tragically lost his life in a motorcycle accident. The twist? He was allegedly replaced by a lookalike William Campbell. This theory gained traction thanks to supposed hidden clues in Beatles songs and album covers. Despite McCartney addressing these rumors in a 1969 Life magazine interview, the conspiracy persists. The question remains, was the interview the work of William Campbell or even somebody else? And finally, at number 1, we have the theory that the CIA killed Bob Marley. This theory suggests that the government, through the CIA, orchestrated the reggae legend's death in May 1981. Apparently, the CIA perceived Marley as a threat due to his influence on the socialist movement in Jamaica. They allegedly poisoned him with a pair of radioactive shoes, or perhaps even employed a gunman to do their dirty work. While these allegations lack concrete evidence, they continue to circulate, keeping this conspiracy alive. Whilst there still appears to be no evidence, the theory persists.
In the late 1990s, a vending machine with mystery buttons appeared in Capitol Hill in Seattle. The machine dispensed unusual and discontinued drinks and was regularly restocked by unknown persons, which led to plenty of speculation when it mysteriously disappeared in 2018. So what happened? Let's find out more, and please subscribe. Thank you. The vending machine in question was situated in front of Broadway Locksmith on East John Street in Seattle, Washington. The unit itself was an aged 1970 S-made Coca-Cola branded machine, yet it dispensed drinks from a variety of manufacturers. In addition to this, drinks could be chosen by selecting the mystery buttons, and the machine would give you a drink that was typically of an unusual flavor, some of which had not been manufactured for some time, such as Pepsi AM. Broadway Locksmith were the electricity supplier that powered the machine, and while speculation suggested the business had potential involvement and were perpetuating the mystery, employees maintained that they had no knowledge of who was responsible for the machine, who restocked it, or why. The machine even had its own Facebook page, which was followed by over 35,000 fans. According to news outlets in Seattle, the machine was in operation since the late 1990s, and in 2002, the drinks were priced at 55 cents. They continue to advise that the machine had only one mystery button alongside the other 5, which were labeled normally, until the machine gained more exposure in the news, and all 6 buttons were amended to mystery buttons. Some believe that the machine was haunted and possessed an unusual and even intimidating presence. In 2014, an image posted online showed 2 unidentified individuals restocking the machine and also raised the prices of drinks to 75 cents, which is suspected of being a hoax. In 2015, a spokeswoman told the Seattle Times confirmed that the city had no permits for the machine on record. So, if there are no permits and Coca-Cola are not responsible for the outdated machine, what in Devil's Playground was going on? The latest developments on this eerie machine are that in January 2018, Seattle passed a sugary drink tax, the price of drinks rose to $1, and then on June 29, 2018, the machine either grew legs and ran away, or simply disappeared following maintenance work done on the nearby bus stop. A note was posted nearby reading, "Went for a walk," which was posted on the machine's social media page. An employee of Broadway Locksmith noted that the machine had to have been removed with care and on purpose due to the way it was connected to its electrical supply, and in August 2023 confirmed that the machine had not been seen since its disappearance. This story is a little creepy, but was it just somebody seizing an opportunity by selling cut price, out of date, or discounted stock an old machine they either had or bought, or is there something more twisted about it all? In 1973, a young boy in Bermuda was reported to have been hit by a car whilst riding a moped, and sadly died. A year later, the deceased's brother was also riding a moped in the same area, when he too was hit by the very same vehicle that had killed his brother. He unfortunately died too. This is one very sick coincidence, but do you believe it? Let's find out more, and please subscribe. Thank you. Erskine Lawrence Eban was 17 years old on the 18th of July, 1973, and was riding his moped around Hamilton in Bermuda. Whilst riding, he was struck by a taxi in an area known as Sandy's. The taxi driver was named Willard Manders and had a passenger on board at the time. Erskine regrettably lost his life, and his family were left distraught. Erskine's slightly younger brother, Neville Eban, was 16 years old at the time. Just over a year later, on the 30th of July, 1974, 17-year-old Neville was riding Erskine's repaired moped close to where his brother had died, when several bizarre coincidences unfolded. Neville was riding around the Hog Bay level area when he was struck a car. The car also just happened to be a taxi. If this isn't freaky enough, the driver of the taxi was none other than Willard Manders, the same taxi with the passenger that had killed Neville's brother Erskine a year earlier. What are the odds? Neville also died at the scene, but the twists haven't ended just yet. According to the brothers' father Henry Eban, the passenger in Manders' taxi that day was the same passenger from the fatality the year before. This story has often tried to be debunked, as some sources suggest the brothers were twins when they weren't, and the year is often amended to 1975 for unknown reasons. So is evil at work here? Are our fates sealed? Or is the one of the most coincidental and tragic incidents of all time? Let me know what you think in the comments and please subscribe, thank you.
In 1957, Lawrence Bader rented a boat to go fishing in Lake Erie. A storm occurred and his boat was found the next day, but there was no sign of Bader. His body was not recovered from the lake, but in an unusual twist, he wasn't dead either. So how can he missing, but also confirmed not dead? Find out more in this video, and please subscribe, thank you. Lawrence Joseph Bader was born in December 1926, and his occupation was a cookware salesperson in Akron, Ohio for Reynolds Metals Corporation. Bader had a wife named Mary, and 3 children, with another on the way. In May 1957, Bader kissed his wife goodbye, as he left their property to rent a 14-foot fishing boat at Lake Erie. At the lake, Bader placed his fishing gear into the boat, and rowed into the lake in search of catch of the day. The weather turned, and a particularly aggressive storm passed over the lake. He did not return to his wife and children that evening as planned. The following morning, Bader's boat was located and said to have had minor damage and an oar was missing. Lawrence Bader was nowhere to be found. 3 years later in 1960, after no signs of his body being found, Bader was officially declared dead. It's only when we skip forward to 1965, almost 8 years after Bader disappeared, that things take a very weird turn. Following confirmation of Lawrence Bader's death, his wife Mary Lou decided to move forward with her life. She was now able to claim Social Security payments for $254, and almost $40,000 from Lawrence's life insurance. She met another man, they started dating, and soon got engaged to be married. Things were certainly looking up. In February 1965, Bader's 21-year-old niece Suzanne Pica was at an archery event in Chicago, when she spotted somebody she recognized. She went up to the man in question and asked, "Pardon me, but aren't you my Uncle Larry Bader who disappeared 7 years ago?" The man just laughed, but Suzanne noticed distinct similarities between the man in front of her and her dead uncle, despite an eye patch and mustache. The man she had approached went by the name of Fritz Johnson from Nebraska, who was a radio announcer and TV sports director at KETV7. This guy had been a minor celebrity in the Omaha area since the late 1950s. Johnson got married in 1961 to Nancy Zimmer, and adopted her daughter, and later had a son together. Johnson went on to explain that he had a cancerous tumor behind his left eye, hence why he was wearing an eye patch. All of this information checked out, leading Johnson to think that Suzanne had misidentified him, had similarities to her uncle, or she was simply crazy. Suzanne was adamant that Fritz Johnson was her uncle Lawrence Bader, and called Bader's brother in Akron. Bader's brother too came to the same conclusion that Johnson was his brother, and that Suzanne was not crazy after all. Johnson and his wife thought this was some sort of prank, and maintained their story. Police eventually took Fritz Johnson's fingerprints to close the case. Using Bader's military records to verify Fritz Johnson's fingerprints were not the same, they were in for a chilling shock. The 2 prints matched perfectly. Johnson still did not confess, and attributed it all to a very bad case of amnesia. Not only this, Bader's first wife Mary Lou now had to pay back the life insurance money, and Bader, or Johnson, now had 2 wives. Is this one of the most baffling amnesia disappearances on record, a weird story forever unanswered? Could Bader maybe have struck a rock when he fell out the boat? These are not completely impossible theories. Johnson's marriage to Nancy was then declared null and void, however she stood by him. Johnson again still maintained he had no knowledge of Mary Lou, his children, or anything before being Fritz Johnson, even when psychiatrists examined him for 10 days straight. Given the invention of a whole new identity, others are more skeptical of Bader's story, claiming that he didn't have to tell his wife he wanted to leave her. It would also transpire that Bader was $20,000 in debt, being almost $220,000 in 2024, and that this was a get-rich-quick scam to avoid tax evasion and look after family. Another theory is that a combination of the boat fall and his tumor meant Bader may have endured a severe case of amnesia lasting several years, which was extremely rare, but not unheard of. In September 1966, Bader lost his battle with his malignant tumor, and passed away in Omaha. The myth as to whether he cheated death for financial gain or other reasons has never been officially verified, leaving the question surrounding a hoax. Did Larry Bader die? Was Fritz Johnson really Larry Bader? Or is this a bizarre and freaky coincidence? Let me know what you think in the comments, and please subscribe, thank you.
Did a UFO crash land in Wales, United Kingdom in 1974? Picture this: January 23, 1974, Northern Wales. The quiet is shattered by loud noises. Bright lights paint the night sky. Locals report unusual activity. Authorities assure them it's standard air traffic or activity from nearby St. Athan, a Ministry of Defense site. Yet, as the night unfolds, reports of aircrafts, including military transport and helicopters, multiply. The crescendo? An alarming number of calls prompt the police to liaise with the military, who claim that their presence was all accounted for, and that everything would return to normal by morning. So why weren't the local residents informed this would be happening? A question still lingering in the minds of many. Theories about the event began to circulate, and some were more outlandish than others. One theory that gained traction was the belief that a UFO had fallen out of the sky. The proponents of this theory argued that the British government was purposely hiding the event to recover the spacecraft. This theory earned the name the Roswell Incident, a playful nod to the famous Roswell incident of 1947 in New Mexico. However, the official narrative tells a different story. As per an MOD declassified document, the event was explained as the result of an earthquake. The tremors, measuring a 3.5 on the Richter scale, were supposedly the culprits behind the loud noises and shaking properties. But this explanation was only released a few days after the event, further raising eyebrows and suspicions. Yet another theory suggests that it was one large meteor that struck Earth. This theory aligns with the reports of a bright glowing light in the sky and the subsequent loud explosion. But with every theory, there are always questions left unanswered. And in this case, the question is, are all the residents of Berwyn Mountains intentionally lying, or is somebody more powerful not telling the truth? These theories and the mystery behind them continue to spark interest and debate among enthusiasts and skeptics alike. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.
In the 17th century, a group of girls from France, known as the Casket Girls, were sent to America and Canada to be married off, but the girls grew unhappy, which led them into crime. What did they do? Find out in this video, and please subscribe, thank you. Fille à la cassette, French for Casket Girl, were women taken in 3 groups from France in the 17th century, to French colonies of Louisiana with the intent of marriage. The girls got their name from the small chests they carried with them on the ships, which was alleged to have housed their clothes, like an ancient-day suitcase. There was a policy in place that allowed women referred to as king's daughters to the colonies, including Canada, Louisiana, and the French West Indies. The girls are believed to have been aged between 14 and 19 at the time, and some did not make the journey across the pond due to mosquito bites and yellow fever, ending their lives on the 6-month journey aboard the ship named Pelican. There was a requirement for these girls to have the right etiquette and be virgins. However, many of the girls being shipped across the globe were women of the night, and some were mentally vulnerable or homeless. The girls were handpicked from orphanages, convents, and even a mental health hospital, and had to marry a man within a month of arrival, and alleged to be consensual. It was duly noted that all of the girls had bloodshot eyes, giving them not just the name Casket Girls, but also Vampire Girls, and later on, Correction Girls. Some of the girls stayed, but others who had been determined felons, and did not find husbands, were deported in 1719, due to the influx of said women arriving in the colonies and becoming sex workers. The program was terminated in the mid-18th century. For those girls that did stay and marry, they became annoyed by their husbands spending too much of their time in the woods, instead of them building the girls new homes, or planting vegetation, and clubbed together and staged a protest known as the Petticoat Rebellion. The men were persuaded, and provided a roof and food for the girls. Now we're getting closer to the weird stuff. The girls were housed in the Ursuline convent, and a request for nuns to look after the Casket Girls until they married was denied. This was due to residents complaining there was something odd about the girls, and the death toll in the area had doubled since their arrival. It was also observed that all of the girls had unusually pale skin. Sisters of the Ursuline convent simply showed the girls and their casket-shaped chests up the steps, to the 3rd floor of the convent at 1112 Rue Chartres, which is the oldest building in the Mississippi Valley, now known as St. Louis Cathedral. The windows and the door were sealed shut. After giving the girls time to settle, the nuns returned to the 3rd floor, upon which they discovered that all of the chests were empty and the girls had vanished. The nuns searched high and low, but could not find anything. How did all the girls go missing from a room with a bolted door and all the windows nailed shut? Rumors circulated that the Casket Girls were not quite who they had claimed they were, and with an unnerving chill in the air, a conspiracy arose that the girls were blood-draining vampires. A pope was called in to bless the nails on the boarded-up windows, and the door was bolted shut once more. A modern-day theory is that the Casket Girls still remain locked away, and that without the nails blessed by the pope, the young women from France would be roaming the streets to drink the blood of the living. No women have never been found, and there is no official explanation, so what do you think?
In the United Kingdom, sometime around the year 2001, a young girl released a balloon with her name on it, which landed over 100 miles away in the garden of a young girl that not only was the same age, but also had the exact same name. These weren't the only similarities. Let's find out more, and please subscribe, thank you. In Staffordshire, England, 10-year-old Laura Buxton tied her name and address to a balloon, requesting that whoever received the balloon wrote back to her by adding, "Please return to Laura Buxton." She then released the gold balloon into the direction of the sky, and to her surprise, the balloon floated 140 miles away and landed in the Marlborough garden of another 10-year-old girl, also named Laura Buxton. Spooky. But we've only just touched the surface of this almost impossible coincidence. Via their parents, the two Lauras agreed to meet up, and on the day they did, they both wore a pink sweatshirt and jeans. The two girls were also the same height, had the same hair color and style, and they both owned a 3-year-old black Labrador and gray pet rabbit. In addition, the girls both had a guinea pig that brought to their meet, and you guessed it, they were both the same color with the same unusual orange markings on their legs. The two girls struck up a friendship and have remained friends to this day. So had the balloon entered a parallel universe? Let me know what you think in the comments.
On the evening of Sunday, the November 22nd, 1987, a truly obscure incident took place in Chicago, Illinois, leaving television viewers alarmed and bewildered. On this evening, two broadcasting networks were the subjects of a brief hijacking by an impersonator of the infamous Max Headroom, who himself was a fictional character played by Matt Frewer as the first computer-generated television presenter. I've included snippets of the actual hijacking sporadically throughout this video to avoid any obvious copyright strikes and offer you a sense of the scariest non-scary thing I've possibly seen. At around 9:14 p.m. Chicago time, the first of the two incidents took place on WGN-TV that broadcast in analog between 1948 and 2009. A sports segment was being broadcast at the time when suddenly, a person wearing a Max Headroom mask, vigorously swaying from side to side, appeared on viewers' television sets. Whoever was responsible for this had problems attaching sound to their vision and was broadcast with an overpowering buzz sound. The transmission only lasted for around 17 seconds before technicians at WGN rapidly regained control of their signal tower and went about their business as usual. It was an eerier broadcast and partially unsuccessful given the sound issue, leaving people confused. The second pirate broadcast for that same evening was the turn of WTTW, who broadcast in analog between 1955 and 2009, before going digital. This transmission from the same assumed person or persons was a little more successful, with nobody at the WTTW affected tower, taking slightly longer to remedy. The Max Headroom imposter interrupted the show Doctor Who, and was back on the TV screens of Chicago viewers for the second time that evening, with a more concentrated and steady level of sound. The individual made references to the real Max Headroom's new Coke advertisements and nerds, and an array of other topics, using excited noises. The illegal broadcast then became even creepier, when the masked individual pulls down his trousers to reveal his backside, when a supposed woman enters the shot in some sort of bunny mask, and spanks the Max Headroom impersonator, who can be heard saying, "They're coming to get me." The woman then responds, "Bend over," followed by a profanity. Max cried and screamed, and the hijackers terminated their pirate transmission, allowing the scheduled program to continue. This second incident interrupted viewers' screens for approximately 90 seconds. WTTW technicians were unable to counteract the signal takeover, so thankfully for them, it was ended by the pirate, before it became even weirder. The station was inundated with telephone calls to find out what had happened. So what was the point of this broadcast? In short, guy hijacks TV show, guy talks nonsense or over a minute, guy gets spanked by a girl disguised as a bunny, guy refuses to offer any additional information, guy leaves. Following the two events on the November 22, 1987, a criminal investigation was conducted, but despite many inquiries and endless speculation during the following decades, the culprits to this day have still evaded capture and remain unknown. Experts believe the hijacker had an extensive knowledge of TV broadcast transmissions, as they sent a more powerful transmission to the broadcast towers of the station, which in 1987 was still advanced, but since 2009 in the digital era, would be an incredible achievement this day and age, but not impossible, suggesting maybe a disgruntled employee played a part. So what was the point of the Max Headroom broadcasts? Their identities remains a mystery, they made no demands, they did not confess to the incident, and have seamlessly disappeared into thin air. What do you think? The fine, if caught, would have been $10,000, and up to a year in prison if they caught within 5 years. So why did they not come forward after 1992 and say it was a prank? Let me know in the comments and please subscribe. That's enough chilling content for one day. Thanks for watching.